Hi friends, so we're going to do something a little bit differently today, and I've actually tried to film this a couple times, and I tried to do it without a mic at all, and the audio was terrible. So I'm not going to do an intro or anything, but I desperately want to go over these transcripts that were released with you guys, and I know that y'all have been asking me to as well, and I really want to talk about it. I'm filming this for you guys on Wednesday. I'm hoping to get this video up for you guys today, while I'm also trying to cook and get ready for Thanksgiving tomorrow, which is funny because every single year I say, I'm just going to order pizzas next year. And then I was up at 1 a.m. this morning making cornbread so I can make my dressing today. There's kids that's probably going to be in and out. There's people in the background, and I'm going to do my best. But other than that, it's going to be very casual so we can go over these transcripts. If you guys don't know me though, hi, my name is Christina. I have a second channel if you want to find me over there. I also have a Patreon, I have a Facebook, I have an Instagram, I have a Snapchat, and I'm on Like to Know It. So if you're interested in like these PJs, these are so cute by the way, you guys. The tree, this table back there, this console table, all that stuff, you can find that on my Like to Know It. All of those are linked down in the description box if you want to come and check me out. Oh, and just in case any of you guys missed it, my new merch is on pre-sale right now. So when I announced it last week, it sold out immediately, but I got with the shirt company. They're absolutely amazing, and they are going to be pre-saled until November 27th. So if you want to get merch, and if you want to get it before Christmas, for Christmas gifts, for somebody else, or for yourself, now would be the time to do it. I will leave the links up here if you want a screenshot and you need to put it in Safari or something, or you can just click the link to that down in the description box as well. I'm pretty sure all of the signed shirts are again sold out, but all the other shirts should be available. So make sure you guys go and check it out. They're going to be on pre-sale till November 27th at midnight, 2023. Okay, real quick, I'm going to try to do a brief overview. If y'all are not all caught up on the Delphi case, I highly suggest going and getting caught up. I have other videos. The video that I did on this right before this video is highly important to watch, so y'all know my opinions on things and also what happened before these documents were released. Okay, real quick, you guys, I have the 29-page documents that was released. Very briefly, because we have a lot to go over here, and I don't know how we're gonna do it because it is a lot and there's so much that is so important, but I'm gonna try my best to skim through the most important parts. But briefly, like we talked about in the last video, so Richard Allen's attorneys, according to Judge Gull, in that hearing, they withdrew from the case. Okay, now cameras have not been allowed in the courtroom this whole entire time. Remember, Richard Allen's attorneys requested for cameras to be allowed in the courtroom. They want the public to see what was going on. Well, the judge says, okay, we got a meeting that we're going to have a hearing on October 19th. I'm going to allow cameras in the courtroom for the first time. This is when she came in and said that there was an unexpected turn of events.
We've had an unexpected turn of events, ladies and gentlemen. Earlier this afternoon, the defense attorneys have withdrawn their representation of Mr. Allen.
Now, when she made this announcement, it really sounded like this was an unexpected, like, well, this came out of nowhere, an unexpected turn of events. Richard Allen's attorneys have withdrew. One has given a written statement and the other one gave a verbal statement. And a lot of us at first, and I talked about this in my other video, was like, oh my gosh, was the whole Odin theory thing, was that fabricated? Were they about to get in trouble and they withdrew? Well, then not long after that, it came out that the attorneys who have been working on this case came out and said that they did not want to withdraw. As a matter of fact, they offered to do it pro bono, meaning defend him for free, but they basically felt strong-armed by the court. Now, I think this is a great place for me to say that I'm going to be putting all this in my own words and my own opinions. I'm not a professional. I'm nothing of the sort. Please go do your own research and form your own opinions. I don't know these people. I'm just filtering this through my own layman's terms, okay? So basically they're like, we felt strong-armed. We don't want to drop him as our client. We believe he's innocent. There's plenty of evidence that shows that he's innocent, and we want to defend him. But yet Judge Gull and the courts said that they had to be released from the case. So then, because of that, the judge was like, no, you can't do it for free. And so Richard Allen's attorneys put in paperwork to the Supreme Court and asked the Supreme Court to get involved. The Supreme Court accepted their document that they turned in and said, we'll take a look at it, okay? So when the Supreme Court decided they were going to take a look at it, that's when they asked Judge Gull for the transcripts for the meetings. So what happened was when she came out and had that little hearing where she said that this was an unexpected turn of events, the one where only one attorney showed up and he looked pretty ticked, they had a meeting in her chambers before she came out. It wasn't so unexpected, but we're going to get to it. They were in her chambers having a meeting where she basically let them know, hey, you'll see. You'll see how she words it. Well, that whole thing was transcribed and the Supreme Court asked for the documentation of the conversation that they had. So when that came out, I've been sitting here waiting to see what was going to happen. And the judge actually had asked for an extension. And I remember telling my friends, like, why does she need an extension? Like, it's literally not like you're asking for the transcripts of a year-long court proceeding and they got to gather them all up. It was just a little powwow, a little meeting before court was held. Well, she needed an extension, and we're gonna read exactly what happened in that meeting in the chambers before she came out and said that they withdrew, okay? Something shady's going on in Delphi, y'all.
Journalism, it's time for you guys to start being journalists.
So they go into the chambers with the judge. So it's the judge in there. I'm setting this up in my own mind, you guys. The judge is sitting in there waiting for these attorneys to come in, like, come on in. The two attorneys come in, okay? And they already know something's going to happen because of these crime scene photos were leaked, but they don't really know exactly what yet because, according to them, they had nothing to do with it. And the prosecution comes in. So they're going to have a little powwow, right? So when they come in, the prosecution says, Judge, I wanted to do some introductions. I finally got approval from our counsel to hire a paid attorney to help me. And the judge, where it says the court, this is Judge Gull, interrupts him. Okay. The prosecution says, small town, local government. So this is Jim Luttrell. He's a retired prosecutor from Grant County. He decided or agreed to come on board. The judge, okay, have a seat. So he's coming in, prosecution's coming in, so I'm like, hey, judge, basically, I got him approved to be here, small town. So she's like, okay, well, small town, small government, he's going to come in, have a seat. Okay, this is the tone. This is what this feels like to me. He keeps trying to speak, and she's just okaying him. Okay. And I'm going to handle a written appearance. And then this guy that he brings with him, Mr. James Luttrell, says, nice to meet you, Judge. And the judge says, nice to meet you, Jim. So they go on for a minute to talk about this new person being introduced. And this is when Bradley Rozzi, and again, this is one of Richard Allen's attorneys, or former attorneys, says, well, I'm the one that kind of asked to huddle up. So if you want me to lead or if you want me to say some things, I'm okay with whatever approach you want to take here. And the judge says, go ahead. And he says, well, I think, and the judge says, I've got Jody, Jody's got our portable FTR going. So just that we've and Mr. Rozzi, oh, okay, that's fine. So, and she says, get the record. So the judge is basically saying, like, I got somebody here recording this conversation so it can be recorded. So Richard Allen's attorney wanted to have a huddle up because they wanted to know in the front of their minds what to expect for going into that hearing that they were going into, where the judge said there was an unexpected turn of events. They were trying to kind of see, like, okay, what's going to be happening when we go in this hearing. Goes on to address the judge and says, obviously, I'm happy to hear that the court's going to make some decisions on the pending pleadings today. And the judge goes, uh-huh. And Mr. Rozzi goes, I assume Andy feels the same way. It's time to kind of get some closure, if you will, with regard to these items so that we can move forward. Talking about the crime scene photos being released to the public. We need to figure this out. We need to get some closure so we can move forward. It's probably obvious that the tension from our side is coming, from the words disqualification that were murmured in the phone conference that we had a couple weeks ago. I'm assuming you understand how that kind of raises the intensity level of circumstances. And I guess if I have a concern today, it's that, we're going to go out basically in the public, so to speak, in the courtroom on the record and have a discussion about an ongoing investigation. And that's what kind of I gathered from the email. I think you invited Nick to talk about that if he wanted to. The judge. And it makes me a little uncomfortable because I don't know, first of all, there are no pleadings that are pending, whether there's motions to disqualify, to contempt, citations, or whatever there might be, that really frame the issues. I have no problem. I don't have any problem talking about this stuff privately on the record in an ex parte type of confidential hearing. I just think it's a little difficult to expect that there could be any kind of structure to the idea, hey, there's an ongoing investigation and just tell us what's going on. And the way I'm reading this is he's really basically trying to say, okay, Judge, what's going on here? He's trying to fill her out. He's like, we were on the phone a couple weeks ago, and during that conversation, the words disqualification were murmured. That's not really the way that the court works. You don't just get disqualified because of something like this. And before we go out here in front of the public, where now you're allowing cameras to be finally, he was kind of trying to fill her out and let her know, like, what's going on with this. And she's listening to him going, like she already knew in her mind what was about to happen. Attorney Baldwin, Richard Allen's other attorney, kind of goes in and goes, well, I'm more of the due process side. I'm not really sure what will happen, but I just don't know. I don't know what's going to happen, and I would like the opportunity to know what's going to happen and prepare for what they're claiming or whatever before it happens. So Mr. Baldwin's telling her, I don't know what's about to go on here. I don't know what they're claiming happened, if we had something to do with it, but there is a due process. There's a court way that things are supposed to happen. And I'm expecting for it to happen that way. That's basically what he's telling her very respectfully. And he's saying, and I would like to know what's going to happen before we get out here in front of the public. You could only imagine that these attorneys, everything that they had already been through, and now all of a sudden the judge is going to allow cameras in the courtroom. They got a feeling that they're about to be embarrassed or something, probably. Like a gut feeling like, wait a minute, she murmured disqualification. That ain't how the court works. There's due process, but now there's going to be cameras in here. Like, Judge, what's going on? Like, that's what they're saying is what it seems like. And Baldwin goes on to say, so you had indicated that when Nick said, I don't know if he said the word disqualification, but, and the judge interjects him and goes, oh, he did. So, I can only imagine the tense in this room. Well, I don't really know if he said dequalification. And the judge said, oh, he did. And Mr. Baldwin said, was it that word? And she goes, mm-hmm. And Mr. Baldwin goes, okay, I didn't know if he just said it as in more of a generic way. And she goes, mm-mm. And Mr. Baldwin said, and your response was, I'm leaning in that direction or something along those lines. And the judge goes, mm-hmm. So Mr. Baldwin's like, wait a minute, I don't really know if I heard that word dequalification. And she's like, oh, you did. That's the word you heard was dequalification. And he was like, but wait a minute. So that's really what he said was dequalification? Yeah. And then Mr. Baldwin says, oh, because I thought that maybe he just said it like in a generic way, like, well, this could cause a dequalification. And she was like, And he's like, I didn't know if you were really considering that. She's like, mm-hmm. And Mr. Baldwin's like, wait a minute, what? So Mr. Baldwin goes on to tell her that he's still wanting to try this case in January. They've been working on this whole entire time, okay? Richard Allen was supposed to start his trial in January of 2024, okay? It's been put off now until October of 2024, and the man is sitting in a prison, not even in a jail. He's sitting in a prison and allegedly being severely mistreated. Now, y'all already know what I feel about the prisons and all of that, especially too, if you hurt children. Things happen in there. It just is what it is. Who am I to say? If you really up in there hurting a child, I'm not jumping in the middle of that one. Okay, I'm gonna save my energy maybe for something else. But if he's being set up because of politics, because of cults and occults and stuff like that that's going on in that town, that's a problem. As Mr. Baldwin goes on to basically say, hey, I'm still trying to try this case, like whatever, then the judge asks the prosecution what his opinion is, which is weird. Like, anything, Nick, to the prosecution, like, you got anything to say about this? And this is when the prosecution goes on to say, Judge, I guess my plan today was to give the court a summary of the investigation. I've got witnesses here and exhibits to present that go towards the investigation, and I'm more than happy to hand those over to the defense. I know it may harm the investigation, but I think it would be important that the court hear these things. The evidence that we have shows it is an ongoing leak. However, it's being done, and it's just, what's next? So the prosecution, Nick, then goes on to tell the judge, listen, there's been an ongoing investigation about whoever leaked these crime scene photos, and we've found that there's an ongoing leak. As a matter of fact, I'm losing sleep over it. I got people calling me at 2 o'clock in the morning. Again, this is the prosecution telling the judge, I'm trying to sleep. There's people calling me at 2 o'clock in the morning about this stuff. So basically he's telling her this is a problem, okay? And the judge goes, okay. Richard Allen's attorney is watching this interaction between the judge and the prosecution, and it's like, wait a minute. What's going on here? Okay, he's looking like, y'all look like y'all had a conversation before without me. Again, this is all in my own words, okay? And hold on. This screams due process to me. Okay, so he's letting the judge know, I can see something's going on here, and there is due process that needs to be had. And he goes on to tell the judge that he ain't seen none of that evidence. He don't even know what they got, but something basically seems fishy. And they're starting to realize that gut that they had after that conversation on the phone that was off the record 2 weeks ago, that gut feeling, it was accurate. Now, this is when both of Richard Allen's attorneys go in speaking to the judge. They're talking about everything, about the process, about how they didn't have, all of the things that they have put into place to make sure that this type of thing never happens again, and about how, like, somebody had went into there and took these photos, and how it's just not going to happen again. Which, can I interject here? First of all, the fact that these photos were leaked, regardless, especially being two minors, two young girls, is horrible. Nobody should see them in that way. We know that one of them had no clothes on, and it just, it shouldn't be out there, especially leaked in this way. However, I think it's very bizarre in this situation that it is coming from allegedly the defense's side, because I see prosecution leaking stuff they're not supposed to leak all the time in order to nail a person down. But in this case, it's allegedly the defense. The defense, and this is like the case that's being made, right? The defense wants the public to see the crime scene photos. Why? Because typically that would stir emotion with the people and make the people mad at the person on trial. But in this case, it's coming from the opposite side, which all of this screams something is up. Something is not right with this Delphi case, okay? Think about the Courtney Clinny situation. She's sitting in prison right now in Miami, Florida, waiting to go to trial for stabbing her boyfriend, and he passed away. Well, allegedly, the prosecution is the one that leaked all of these videos, security camera videos where she was hitting him, and text messages and all that. And the defense, Courtney's defense, has spoke out and said this is wrong. The prosecution shouldn't be leaking that. They're trying to get public opinion on their side. That stuff was leaked all by the prosecution, but they ain't been pulled off the case. Now, I know it's probably different because this is crime scene photos, but this is a very weird interaction of what's going on here. So Richard Allen's attorneys are pleading their case and being like, whoa, whoa, whoa. And then at the end of it, one of the attorneys tells her, this doesn't have anything to do with Richard Allen himself, basically saying he didn't do anything wrong. He does not deserve to lose his attorneys, putting it again in my own words. So this has nothing to do with Richard Allen. And the judge says, no, it has nothing to do with him. It certainly doesn't. Mr. Baldwin goes on to tell her that he still needs counsel, like he needs us as his attorneys. And he also says, I just don't want to go in there and not be able to fight back with the evidence that we, or witnesses that we have to counteract whatever claim. So basically he's saying like, I don't want to go in this court and not know what y'all are about to do. And this is when the judge tells them, and before this, it just feels like they're pleading to her, like, whoa, 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 what's going on? What's going on? And this is when the judge says, okay, these are my thoughts here in no particular order. She tells them, she goes, I don't know how many people are out there, meaning in the courtroom, because they're out there waiting, because they're in the chambers getting ready to come out and address this on October 19th. While she's allowed cameras in the courtroom at this point. She says, I don't know how many people are out there, and I certainly don't wish to basically embarrass you publicly. And she says, and I don't want to have to tell the world my concerns on this matter. My intent in having this hearing was to go through some of the pleadings that we have not yet decided. So I was going to start with reminding everybody about the decorum order, reminding everybody why we are here and to shut up, etc. There have been reports to my sheriff about disruptive people, and I will remind people if they are disruptive, they will be removed. And that I kind of got like threat vibes, like, because we know what it's been like with the two attorneys, you know, journalism.
Baldwin, can you provide any comment?
Journalism. It's time for you guys to start being journalists.
Journalism. Journalists need to start doing journalism again, which you know what that means. That means reporters need to start telling the truth. People that are lying do not ask journalists to do the right thing, okay? People that feel like the truth is being hidden say stuff like that. But now the judge is saying, I've gotten some reports that some people have been disruptive, and I'm telling you right now, I'll have them removed from my courtroom. Oh, the tension in here. She was throwing her weight around, y'all. I don't care. That's my opinion. She says, so under the rules, I'm required to advise people within the room that the media are here and they're filming. So she's saying like, I don't want to have to go out there and tell everybody what I think about y'all. And my sheriff is ready for somebody to cut up. And I just need to remind everybody that there's cameras watching you. Oh no. Then she goes on to speak to him and address him about his motions to have cameras in the courtroom. And the way that I read what she was saying to the attorneys was like, you want cameras in the courtroom so bad, well, we're going to have them in there today. Like, this is such bad vibes, you guys. This is when Mr. Rozzi says, yeah, I was just trying to understand, are you suggesting that you're going to determine that on a case-by-case basis or a hearing-by-hearing basis? So he's basically saying about the cameras thing. So are you letting me know that we're going to have cameras in the courtroom by hearing or by case? And the judge says hearing by hearing, okay? And she says, yeah. And he says, all right, okay. I just want to make sure I understood that. So then they go on to talk about Richard Allen's mental health. And this whole time, basically, for like the biggest part of this conversation, it is just Rozzi, Baldwin, which is Richard Allen's two attorneys or previous attorneys, and the judge. So you can only imagine the prosecution along with his new person. They're just sitting in there like this, watching them go back and forth. Now they talk about Richard Allen's mental health, and then the judge goes on to talk about, we're talking about the photos again that were released. She talks about the individual that released the photos that ended his life. Okay, so a person ended his life that released the photos because a full-on investigation went on after these pictures were released. And they're saying that the person that ended his life said that the attorney left the materials, the pictures and everything, all over a conference room table accessible to anyone. So she's saying, you left these pictures everywhere according to this guy that ended his life so anybody could see them. And she said that this was a friend, and apparently you consulted with your friend about this case. So the judge says, so again, it's up to you if you want to pursue that avenue of it. I'm looking at the totality of the circumstances. And she goes, and it pains me to say this, but in the totality of these circumstances demonstrates gross negligence and incompetence on the part of the defense team. I am unsatisfied with your representation of Mr. Allen. I am gravely concerned about his rights. She's gravely concerned about Richard Allen's rights while he's in there, done lost like 60 pounds, saying he's getting abused, getting pushed around by people that are, claiming to be part of Odinism, and they're wearing patches and have admitted to wearing these patches to work. And now all of a sudden, she's concerned with Richard Allen's, his rights. Then she says, now I'm sharing my thoughts privately with you. So she's saying, now I'm going to tell you guys this privately, so I don't got to tell y'all out there in front of everybody, in front of the cameras, that you requested to be in here. That's the way I'm reading this. And she goes, I don't want to say this in open court. Like, oh my gosh, this judge. I'm going to share these thoughts with you privately because I don't want to have to say this out there. I would encourage you to talk privately about what you wish to do. I don't want this coming out. It's not where we need to be with this case, but I will. Oh my gosh. And she basically says, but you didn't know that, or you don't know that, but you have just now been made aware of my concerns. So if you wish to have a private conversation, basically, in my opinion, the way I'm reading this, she's telling Mr. Baldwin and Mr. Rozzi, y'all want to step out of the room and decide what you want to do? Don't make me go out there in front of this court and embarrass y'all. That's what it sounds like. She says, I don't believe your client is here yet. And, she looks at her paperwork. No, he's not. Clearly, you need to speak with him as well. And Mr. Baldwin says, I'm not good at reading in between the lines. So he's feeling it too. He's like, wait a minute. Is she really saying what I think she's saying? And Mr. Baldwin said, I'm not good at reading between the lines. He's basically saying, spit it out. Say what you got to say. And she says, you're a lawyer. That's what you do for a living. What? Mr. Baldwin says, when you say have a private conversation, are you talking the four of us? She says, I'm talking about you. I'm not accusing the state of anything. I'm not saying the state is incompetent or negligent. I'm finding gross incompetence and negligence with you. And Mr. Baldwin goes, okay. So it's like all clicking. It's all clicking in his head now. And then Mr. Rozzi goes, forgive me, go ahead. And Mr. Baldwin said, no. And Mr. Rozzi says, I mean, obviously, reading the tea leaves here, what you're giving us is a chance to bow out gracefully, if you will, if that's the right term. Is there a scenario where the court would accept if I stayed in the case? So basically he's saying like, okay, I'm reading in between the lines. You're telling us to bow out gracefully before you go out here and embarrass us in front of anybody. Is there anything I can do to stay on the case? And he said, I mean, I'm a team player, and I'm not the kind of guy that would just bail out on somebody for just the sake of doing it. But I think that it's obvious, that he can speak differently. But I'm not as connected to some of, the most recent circumstances as he is. So what this attorney is saying is like, the person that came in and linked the photos was Mr. Baldwin's friend. It wasn't Mr. Rozzi's friend. So he's saying, listen, I don't want to throw my friend under the bus here, but can I stay on the case because I wasn't connected in any way, which would make sense. And the judge said, no. And Mr. Rozzi goes, so basically what you're saying is you guys either quit on your own accord or you're going to make me fire you. And she goes, nope. I'm saying to you that this is what I plan to say in court on the record when we convene at 2:00. So she's saying, no, I ain't threatening you. I'm just letting you know what I'm going to say. That's exactly what that is. It's like, I'm telling you right now, I'm going to let everybody know in front of the cameras that you guys requested. Oh, they're here now. Oh, you wanted to file that Frank's motion? Oh, you wanted cameras in the courtroom? Well, they're here. And guess what? Now I'm getting ready to go out there and tell them that y'all are incompetent and negligent. Both of them, even though both of them's firms were not even connected to this, only one of them's was. And the attorneys are like, okay, you want me to read between the lines? I've read between the lines. You're telling us to either basically quit this case or you're going to embarrass us. She said, no, I'm just letting you know what I'm about to do. Y'all, is this the drama that goes on? So they're going back and forth like, how are we supposed to do this? How are we supposed to bow out gracefully? You just gonna go out there and just say whatever? And she said, no, I wouldn't do that. If you decide that your best course of action, this is what the judge is telling them, no. If you decide that the best thing for you is to file a motion to withdraw, you can do that today. And I'll send Mr. Allen back to the DOC after you've had a chance to speak with him. Oh my God. This sounds like a strong arm situation. There was no due process. There was no chance for them to be able to defend themselves. She wouldn't even entertain the idea of Mr. Rozzi's firm still defending him. She kicked them both off, or she didn't. She just let them know what she was about to do. And it was so convenient that she finally let cameras in the courtroom at this time. If that ain't a strong arm, I don't know what it is. I hope the Supreme Court does the right thing, if that's the right thing. Again, I'm not a professional. I don't know what the legal best course of action is. But I could go on and on about the conversation, but we saw what happened afterwards. And then the judge came out and she sat down and she said, we have an unexpected turn of events, you guys.
We've had an unexpected turn of events, ladies and gentlemen. Earlier this afternoon, the defense attorneys have withdrawn their representation of Mr. Allen.
An unexpected turn of events. Wow. Good for Baldwin and Rozzi for standing up against the situation. If everything, and I said this in my last video, if everything they're saying is the truth, if this is a big cover up. Now, I've read comments, and I saw a comment where people that have worked with Judge Gull many years ago and said that she was a good judge. But we don't know what her connections are with people there. I don't know what's going on, but something ain't right with this, okay? Something is not right. The photos should not have been leaked, but also at the same time, why was somebody so compelled to leak these photos and ended their life afterwards? That ain't normal, y'all. Something's up. Something is really up. And it ain't even about Richard Allen. Like, if he's innocent in this, or if he didn't do it, he had nothing to do with this, God bless him, because he's going through a lot, and his family as well. But justice for these two girls is what is the most important thing. And if they're setting this guy up, that means the people that did this is still out there with other children running around in Delphi. They're still walking around. They could be a school teacher. They could be a bus driver. They could be handing out lollipops at the corner store to your child. That's not good. And from things that I've seen, allegedly, this stuff that goes on there is deep in there. I mean, they're wearing patches as prison guards and admitted it on the record. You got to be bold to do something like that. And when we talked about that in the last video, so many of y'all that are in law enforcement were flabbergasted. You're like, I cannot believe that not only they did that, but they were allowed to do that. That's how deep, allegedly, this stuff runs there. And Baldwin and Rozzi could have bowed out gracefully here, and they could have went on with their careers. But they are fighting this, and they're risking everything and maybe even their lives. And that says a lot. What happened to Abby and Libby? Were they sacrificed because of something so deeply rooted in that area? No, this house of cards needs to come down if that's what happened. Like, unbelievable. And I'll be honest with you guys, I'm not 100% convinced that it wasn't Richard Allen. It's suspicious that he did happen to be there that day and that he could possibly look like the person that did it. I'm still suspicious of him. Maybe he did do it. But there's one thing is for sure and two things is for certain. Something weird's going on in this town. Something strange is happening with this case. So last thing we know is those transcripts were released, shot out to the Supreme Court. I wish I could be a fly on the wall when they were reading these conversations. And then Judge Gull had a medical emergency and went to the hospital. Now, we don't know all the details. I do hope that she is healthy. I don't wish anything bad on her, but that's weird timing too. I mean, what? Y'all let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. I got to go and get this food off the stove. I love y'all. I hope y'all have a happy Thanksgiving for everybody that is celebrating. I hope you guys get to spend time with your family, and I will see y'all on Friday after Thanksgiving. Love you guys and talk to you soon. Bye.